Credit scores for millions of Americans will be going up this summer thanks to a change by 3 national bureaus that put those scores together. So here's the Washington Post headline on this. Many mortgage applicants will get a surprise boost in their credit score. That sounds great, right? The Post says thanks to a little-known policy shift, those credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, they're planning to stop collecting and reporting a substantial amount of civil judgments and tax lien information beginning July 1st. Both of those are things that can drag your credit score down. So without them, your credit score will likely rise.
Which sounds like good news for us, right? But of course, there's a downside, and it's a pretty significant downside as well. It actually could be risking having more people who are more likely to default on loans getting approved for things like home loans, which in the end may make the housing market kind of more unstable, which just doesn't feel good.
It sounds suspiciously familiar, which is why we wanted to delve a little bit more into this. James Young is the research director at the Runstad Center for Real Estate Studies at UW. What should we make of this credit score news, James?
Well, I think that credit standards and everything else changed so much after the last downturn and everything else that lenders were being very conservative for a long time. And I think the changes made in the credit scores may boost people's credit scores a bit, but I think they're looking more at monthly payment histories, people's ability to pay over time, and that sort of thing. So given that that's how they're using the credit scores now, the default information and the tax lien information isn't nearly as important as it used to be. They're looking more into the history and whether people are going to be able to make the payments on the houses or not. So there's a lot of sort of different scoring mechanisms in place, and lenders in mortgage markets have been very, very conservative for a long time. So I think that while history may not repeat itself, it may rhyme pretty good, but not right now.
What about this news that we're seeing perhaps more riskier borrowers out there? First, are you seeing the same thing? Are you hearing the same thing? And then what could that mean?
Well, I think that this is from a story that appeared, I think, a couple of weeks ago, where the FHA had a slightly higher default rate and so forth. And I think we need to remember that the FHA focuses in on borrowers that don't have much of a down payment. They're very conservative to begin with. I know the Federal Reserve had been all over the FHA for being too conservative in their standards. So I think that given the default rate is still very, very low for FHA loans and for first-time buyers, I don't think that this is going to be a major issue. We have to remember that FHA loans only make up about a little over 20% of the market. And with that little in the marketplace, I mean, these are the riskiest borrowers that have low down payments and have the highest risk of negative equity. But I also think that given the low default rates, the stringent credit criteria that have been in place, and the difficulty in people with bad credit scores to obtain mortgages over the past several years, that we're kind of a long way from any kind of brewing problem in those types of markets.
We just have a small amount of time left. So quickly, the Fed's raised the interest rates this week. How might that or could that impact home buyers or renters here in Western Washington?
Well, I don't think it's going to be too much of an effect. I mean, if you look at a 25 or 250 basis point rise in interest rates, you're looking at a $480,000 mortgage, which is median house price at $600.
Wow. So
you're talking about probably an increase in $70 in the monthly mortgage repayment. So it's not a whole lot yet. I think that the rental market, especially the tightness in the housing market right now, is going to play a major, major impact in terms of the rent-own relationship and all those sorts of things. But that's another story.
So we're going to take a deep breath for right now. This is not a bubble that's happening.
Well, for right now, I think it's okay. And I think that given the sharp adjustment in some of the submarkets that you saw after the 2006-2008 crisis and everything, after you saw that sharp adjustment, we're only coming back to some of the fundamentals that have been in place for a long time.
Because I hyperventilate anytime 2008 even smells familiar at this point. So
yes, indeed, yes. That was a very major event.
I don't want to go back to that place again.
James Young, thank you very much, research director at the Runstad Center for Real Estate Studies at UW. We appreciate you being here very much.
Thank you.